What are some other mindset gaps between the low to mid stakes guys and those guys who really excel at the highest stakes?
Agency. I'll give you a specific example. Back around the time where we put out the public product Ether, that was an advancement on the original Night Vision product that anybody who followed MDA back then probably remembers. Detox put out Night Vision as a categorical archive of aggression hotspots, meaning like, here's all the spots where if you bluff, they will fold too much. That was sort of a whole sector of mass data analysis at the time that was tailored to the aggressive actions. Ether was a bluff catching almanac. It was the first time where we categorized a lot of different lines, formations, textures, and it would allow a player to go through sort of at a glance or in depth and identify, okay, these are the textures where people are either over bluffing or under bluffing. It was very practical as an upgrade in the sense that it would allow you to adjust in a pretty binary way if you ended up in a spot where, you know, there was a lot of evidence that at least this specific player profile bluffs too much in that spot. Well, then I just press call. Simple enough. What we saw in the first intake of players who bought that product was that they were very clearly forked between two types of students. The type of student who could apply agency and look at a series of patterns and be able to say, okay, I understand the signal here. I'm going to navigate this gracefully and calibrate. That was a key word at the time. They could calibrate better when they looked at a bunch of different patterns in a row. The low agency player, the low performer, they correlate. He would look at that list of bluff catching patterns and he would say, okay, I like this. I think I get it. Let me take it into the arena. And the moment that one of the patterns would change in game, he would break down and he would return to the group chat and be like, I don't know what to do when one little thing is different. The player who has high agency does not have that issue. I can connect this to another trait that we saw emerge. It was probably the trait I saw in Matt Marinelli more than anyone when he was coming up. I had identified it early. I didn't know he would end up being as great as he became. Disclaimer. In fact, very few people know this, but Matt Marinelli applied to Detox twice and got rejected before he got in. Just to disclose how poor our recruitment filters actually were at the time. I don't remember exactly why he didn't get in, but he definitely didn't get what he deserved in those first two applications. But what I noticed with Matt, once I started training closely with him, was he was a man of principle, first principles especially. He would look at a system or, you know, a series of, you know, information, I guess, and he would be able quickly to deduce what he really wanted to anchor himself in from that line of information. I'm not doing it justice, but basically Matt would look at something and say, here's the most important thing in this batch of information, that if I just understand this thing, I can trust myself to use it and calibrate when I take it into the arena, even though the situation is going to change. He expected it to change, and he embraced the fact that you're never going to encounter the exact pattern that you study. But because he was so principled, he was someone who was able to play any game. And just to connect this over to what I think the biggest skill set is with live players, really strong live players at this day and age are the players that can adapt quickly to a warped structure. I mean, Renee, you know what they're playing over in Vegas. You were there this summer. It's standing game. It's squid. I mean, those are sort of similar, but it's antes, it's straddles. It's all the stuff that would require a player to be able to calibrate without just having a perfect picture in his head of how he's going to execute something he's memorized. It's not going to take you to the top in a warped model. So that would be the last thing I would say about that little riff would be, we're very careful which players we put into which environments. We identify agency first. We will never put a player with low agency into onto a site or structure. We'll never put him into a format where he's going to have to use I don't want to say use his brain, that's too harsh, but where he's going to have to calibrate to a warped structure. Whereas like there are certain guys where like if we get a new, if a new app comes out and it's like it's using a different type of ANI structure, it's like, okay, these are the guys we send in first, because they don't get overwhelmed by that. They outperform when the model changes.